Uncomfortable Conversations about Culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Jess.
Hello, world.
And Alex.
Happy birthday, Hannah. That's my 4-year-old. Or
Aw.
Tomorrow she'll be 4.
Really?
So,
4.
celebrating.
Happy
4
birthday,
years.
Hannah.
Golden birthday.
Oh, that's
4
fun.
on February 4th.
4 on the 4th.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Are you doing anything fun for the golden birthday? Anything
no,
special?
no crazy golden birthday kind of celebration. Just hanging out. So my in-laws are coming to town, and we might go ice skating in the dad's backyard. So I haven't done that yet, but my dad built like a little ice skating rink in the backyard. So maybe that'll be our first time.
I saw some of your
heading out
social
there.
posts about
Yeah.
that, the development.
Yep, but there it is. So once she's old enough to listen to our PG-13 content here,
You'll play that little
play
slot
that
where
for
it's
her.
like, happy birthday, Hannah.
February birthdays are rare, I hear.
yeah.
Really?
So she's in an elite club with
Less days.
with myself and very few other
Your
people.
birthday's next week?
No, mine's the 13th.
13th,
So,
okay, the day
yeah.
before Valentine's.
Yeah. So
Almost a holiday birthday, like
Almost.
yours truly.
yeah, I wanted to. I'm trying to see if I can get it moved medically.
There's like big things around your birthday. You got the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just
Then
my birthday
Valentine's
just kind
Day,
of disappears into the
your
ether, which
birthday.
I'm okay with.
Yeah,
for the
I-
most part.
Alex knows what that's
get
like.
Yeah.
Sharing a
get it.
birthday with Jesus. I'm in June, so I'm fine.
Oh, you're good.
June 2nd.
It's like, clear.
Done.
Well, we do, luckily, have a voicemail this week.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yep, so we've got one, and without further ado, let's hear what they have to say.
Hey, podcast people. What's up? I am a longtime listener of the podcast and have been wondering, what album can you listen to from start to finish without skipping any songs? Let us know. Thanks, guys.
Oh no.
Done. Immediately no.
Okay, Jess, you know?
Immediately
All right,
no.
give it to
This
us.
CD has been in my car for the past 4 years, and it has not changed. The Greatest Showman,
Okay.
front to back. I can sing it all. Support anyone that wants to carry, done. And then any Backstreet Boys album, I would not skip a song. Don't need to. I'm committed. Period. Very confident in that.
I'm with you on one of those.
I know Backstreet Boys for sure.
BSB.
We've
but
sang a few together in our past.
Currently, it's a current thing for me, and probably the most
I love how
current
mine is so done. Here we go.
is Old Church Basement. It's an album by Maverick City, and that one is typically one that I just will listen to, and sometimes I'll accidentally tap the randomizer or whatever when I listen on iTunes or whatever. Somehow I'll get that tapped, and so it plays it out of order, and I can definitely tell, and that's what'll throw
you
you
can
for
tell.
a loop when you're used to listening to something, especially when that was a live album. So a lot of live albums obviously kind of flow into one another.
Yeah.
And then you get that sudden jerk of whoa, this doesn't belong here.
I felt
When I'm
the
ready
other
for
song.
Gyra, and then all of a sudden it plays, Build Your Church. I'm like, what's happening
What's wrong
here?
Well,
So
that's your current fave.
that's definitely a current fave. But
What's
all
an
the
older
BSB.
fave? What's a go-to?
Probably one of my favorite albums by Backstreet Boys was the Black and Blue album.
Done.
Shaping
Yep.
My Heart is maybe one of my favorite songs ever by them. And it was one of their later albums, but yeah, that
Classic.
one was. I can just picture myself driving to Burke High School, playing
Windows
that.
open.
Yeah,
Just
Curls,
rocking it out.
curls flowing.
Curls.
permed up and ready for high school.
Oh, man.
Eric,
This is
tell
tough.
us.
I'm just
I
trying
feel
to
like
make
you've
sure
got
they're-
a nice repertoire.
They're
of,
not problematic anymore.
Oh no, you could say something problematic.
well,
Alex
I'm
already
just
said we're
saying there's-
PG-13 today.
There's certain people who are, you don't want to give too much credit
Got
to
it.
anymore.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we're skipping Kanye.
Yeah.
Is what we're
There's probably a couple in there that
for sure.
that I really couldn't listen to all the way. I'll say safely, Jesus is King. That's a really good album. I can listen to the whole thing, but I'm not here to promote Kanye. I would say one band that I really like is, they've gotten really popular now, but I still don't think that many people talk about them. It's called The Head and the Heart. kind of a folk pop band. Most of their albums, but especially their self-titled album, really like that. And when I was younger, it was probably some emo band. I don't know, like Taking Back Sunday or something like that. So, yeah. But
I got to give Dave Barnes an honorable mention too. I'm a huge Dave Barnes fan, and I'm trying to think of which album is my favorite, but it's not coming to me right now. But
when I was a kid,
when he listens, I want him to hear this.
It was definitely DC Talk New Thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think Audio Adrenaline's Bloom. Those two albums I listened to a lot.
Yeah.
And Kirk Franklin, his big
Stomp,
late 90s
Yeah.
album. Yep, Stomp, that one. That was it. So I don't know. There's a lot out there.
So
It's
good.
hard to
There
pick just
is.
one. So,
Yeah. Let us know yours.
Please tell us. I think it's fun. It says like things about people. I
It
like
does.
learning about people.
Judge us.
Is anybody listening to something really new that you feel like you would want to share with people? Like turn them on to? Like you should check this out?
No, I feel like it's embarrassing.
I mean, it's not super new, but I mean, I think I'm ready for his next album to drop. NF is one of those guys,
What?
and I think he's going to be releasing some new.
Who's that?
NF.
Who's that? Is
The
that a
letter
person?
N and then F.
That's just his name.
He is a rapper. I would say Christian rapper. Christian who is a rapper, but gets a lot of comparison to Eminem. Probably a lot of maybe emotional, feeling like angry type of rapper. But he is like the workout jam guy. You know, like if I just need to plug that in and just go for it, then you know, Clouds is a good one. So that's who I would say. How about you, Eric?
I'll give two choices. The more secular choice would be a band called Michigander. Really like them right now. Been listening to them a lot. And then on the Christian side, which you don't get a lot of, like, hey, this is just a Christian band. You know, you don't get, that's not, usually it's just, they're all kind of mixed up now.
Yeah.
But Gable Price and Friends released a new album. It's very good. Their band has done some worship stuff too with some of the other big names in worship, but this is more of a traditional album. So really good.
That was fun. Great voicemail. If you want to
that
leave
was
us a
fun.
voicemail, because we love answering it, it makes us kind of have some mystery going into the show, something we didn't plan and know what you're going to say. Call us. Leave us a voicemail, 402-885-9930. And there's been people, just so you know, that have called and maybe got stage fright or lost their train of thought in the middle of a voicemail, and they felt silly, and then they said, I'm going to re-record that. That's totally fine, you know? So don't feel like you've got one chance at it and you feel stupid or whatever. If you let us know, we are not going to make you look silly on the show. So call that number, leave a voicemail. It makes it more exciting for us.
Yes, indeed. All right. Up next, we've got headlines. All right, our one and only headline today is some local news from Omaha.com. It says Omaha police officer kills gunman shooting AR-15 at West Omaha Target store. Yet another reminder that being in the Midwest here in Omaha, we are not exempt from these types of occurrences of active shooters. It's no surprise to anyone listening that we record this earlier in the week, so there's probably developing details that will come out later. So if you're listening to this and going, oh, you didn't mention this aspect of the story, well, it might not have been released yet. But as much of the story as we know is that a man wielding an AR-15 with 13 loaded magazines of ammunition walked into a West Omaha Target store Tuesday and began shooting. Shoppers rushed out emergency exits. Some employees went to hide inside fitting rooms. Many messaged family members saying they love them. I did hear that I think there were 29 911 calls that went out. And miraculously, he did not shoot
No
anyone.
victims,
No victim. Nobody was shot or injured other than him, the gunman, who, like we said in the headline, was killed by Omaha police.
Which is just, fascinating. I think that's why a lot of people are waiting to hear more, because they did find shell casings and he was firing the gun, you know, from based on what we know right now. And man, the fact that 13, full, what are those called? Magazines of ammunition. I mean,
there was
a
plans
lot more devastation.
for more.
And then the response of the Omaha Police Department to get there so quickly to put it to an end.
And I know they interviewed some Target employees who said that they had, gone through some of the similar trainings. And one of the gals had said, that's unfortunately being in the public school system and all that, she's been through a lot of these kind of trainings for a while. I know for me, my kids' school is not too far from there. And so they put them on lockdown yesterday. And so there was we got an email and a text, and that's what prompted me to look at Twitter right away, an Omaha scanner when we get that. And so, which is just always one of those, 2 of my 3 kids had no clue they were in lockdown, which is good. Yeah. And then the other, kid was like, yeah, we were in somewhere else. So they had to put us in our classroom. And it seems like they managed it really well from the school perspective. But then, I'm having a conversation with him, like, what happened?
Yeah.
Don't want him to be afraid to go to Target, that a guy walked in, there. And so I'm like, they caught the bad guy and all that kind of stuff. But all those things are always a little bit, I think, difficult to how do you, especially when it's closer to home, start to talk about that, have those conversations and so on and so forth. And so, yeah,
your first question, at least my first question, is always the why. You want to know what's leading a person to do this, and I think some of that's maybe to help temper our own fears, because if you can just almost rationalize it away and go, oh, okay, well, they were this or that, or there was some other reasoning behind it, then I don't have to maybe dwell on it as much or be as fearful. But still, there's just you really wonder what's going through an individual's mind and what they're looking for.
And Omaha is to me, it's a small town. It's a big town, but small town feel. So even as this was happening, before it came out on the news reporting, I mean, we knew people that were around there that were texting us that something was happening. And even my brother and sister live right by there, and they sent me a picture of themselves at Starbucks. So I thought they were at that Starbucks because that's usually where you would think they would go. And then it's just the information coming in. It's the connection that we feel to things like this. And I think especially no matter your feelings on Target, a lot of people love Target. And a lot of people love, shopping there. There's memes about it, and so it felt kind of violating even to see the headline of Target, who goes to Target and does that. And I went to a different Target this morning, and it just felt, you could tell that the employees were a little more edgy, and there was more security, and you just kind of felt different.
Yeah, because you don't, and that again, you don't know the reason. Was he targeting Target, or was it just a random place that he
former
chose?
worker? And so
we
I'm
just
sure
don't
more
know.
of that'll come out.
And I think we don't know, so we want to fill in the gaps of what happened. How did the police know? We start filling in those gaps. So
hopefully everyone is getting the help that they need from this, whether, because I'm sure that can be incredibly straining mentally if you're in that store when that happens. And so,
well, either way, there's going to be it's a traumatic incident for people, even though no one besides this person died. PTSD. We talked, I think, on episode 20, which is a long time ago, with a guy named Kyler who was he was in the office during the Millard South shooting and actually saw the principal that did get killed. He saw all that happen, and he talked to us just about that and the long-term PTSD kind of effects for a lot of, the people that he went to school with, and maybe right away didn't have those, but then as they've moved into adulthood, have had some of that. And so there, something like that is traumatic always has, we're thankful no one got hurt, but there is that traumatic piece of everyone's going to still hold on to that and have to process it, and hopefully has good places to process it. So,
And it has ripple effects.
Yeah,
So
for
it's
sure.
like the people that were there, I mean, that affects their family members if they're texting or calling them, or a lot of crime has happened. Like there has been robberies like right in that area
Yeah, the week before that
the week
First
before,
National was
and
robbed.
then a few weeks before that, another bank. So it's like, it feels just, I think it's violating, but I agree. It's like traumatic. And then it's the ripple effects of that, of being edgy and
Yeah, for sure.
having safety taken away feels very violating. So.
All right, that does it for headlines. Up next, we are going to be talking about performative philanthropy. So stay tuned for that. Just this week, MrBeast released a video, which if you're not familiar with him, he is one of the biggest YouTubers out there. And in this video, he cures 1,000 people of blindness. At least that's the premise of the video. And that's what spurred today's topic, which is performative philanthropy. And what that means is that video, and what do we think that means, to us individually. So why don't we maybe start that out with how would you describe the term if you heard someone talking about performative philanthropy? Jess, if I asked you, what does that mean? What do you think you would say?
I would assume it would be somebody performing or doing something to get many people's attention. So to me, I automatically, this is where my mind goes, I think clickbait.
Yeah.
So you put like bright colors, pictures, like quick movement through shots. So to me, it'd be like something that it would instantly make me interested. And then philanthropy would be either from me doing that. Like I almost feel like I'm a part of it if I'm clicking on something or watching it, that they're going to help somebody or do something, or
No, that's pretty good.
I'm going to get something out of it.
Yeah, I think for me, it seems like an oxymoron kind of statement, because philanthropy to me, I mean, it's just giving, it's being generous, it's being selfless, and then performative feels like it's selfish. And so maybe when something moves from selfless to selfish, tweet that. That's a preacher point even. Sorry, I'm just tooting my own horn, being performatively
A performative
preacher. So that's kind of what I think. I did ask like a couple other people, and one person mentioned along the same lines, good works that glorify you, not the cause or the problem that you're trying to help, or just maybe something possibly being exploitative. And so if you're exploiting something, that feels like it's in line with it. So
you're saying performative philanthropy feels more than selfless,
it's
selfish.
more self-serving. You're appearing like you're serving others, but really, in the long
There's
term, you're
gain
self-serving.
for you as well along the process.
So that's really kind of the conversation that's happened around this video when it went out. Twitter, of course. There's a lot of opinions out there. And initially you're seeing people say, wow, this is incredible. What would Jesus do, sort of thing, healing the blind type, parallels. And then people start criticizing it, saying it's performative, using your money for good, but, also to publicize it. And I think I watched the video. Did you guys watch the video?
Did. Yeah.
It made me very emotional to watch it. Like seeing people receive something that I take for granted every day.
Yeah.
And it was powerful to watch that, like to see people receive that. I didn't go away from the video feeling manipulated or feeling like, oh, he just did that to get attention.
I felt a little bit like, if you look up the video, it's like, what, I don't remember what the title, but it makes
1,000 blind people see for the first time.
Yes. Okay. So I expect something when I see that title. And then once I got into the video, can I do a spoiler?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay. That it was a surgery that's done. It's like a short surgery, and it has in certain people with a certain type of
cloudy lens.
Right. are viable like for this surgery.
Yeah.
So to me it was like, okay, there's a more like simple medical procedure that we're doing, but it felt kind of, I don't know, misleading a little bit where it's like I'm curing people's blindness. I mean, they truly couldn't like drive or read things or see.
Yeah, it's
So
not.
I just felt
Yeah, it's a specific type of blindness. But the thing is, they said that half of people who are blind, it's this type of a thing. So this is
like a 10-minute procedure
Yeah.
could, and obviously there's a cost barrier to it. But
was it like 10 minutes and 13? It's like a $13,000
yeah, I don't know.
surgery,
I didn't
something like that.
I didn't catch the cost of it, but it does. You know, that's the thing. And I mean, we might as well just dive into some more of the narrative around this because as people went from praising to kind of criticizing MrBeast for this, he tweeted out a series of tweets. I feel like he took the high road on this. He didn't really get into arguments, but he did defend himself. He says it did raise awareness to get tons of people talking. And then people were saying he profits from this. And he says, what profits? The average MrBeast video lost 1.5 million last year. And then he tweeted, I don't understand why curable blindness is a thing. Why don't governments step up or step in and help? Even if we're thinking purely from a financial standpoint, it's hard to see how they don't ROI on taxes from people being able to work again. And then the last one that I saw from him was kind of him saying, Twitter, they're saying rich people should help others with their money. Me, MrBeast, that being me. Okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give away all my money before I die, every single penny. Twitter, MrBeast, bad. You know, so he's trying to change that narrative a little bit, but I think it's just normal for anybody with a platform, any type of influencer. People tend to be pretty critical.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And especially if you're out there, one of the most popular YouTubers, I mean, you kind of would expect it too, to be open to criticism. It's he's one of the top people, even though there's others that are doing similar things. He's
done. This isn't like the first time he's done
right.
something. I know, like in this relevant article, even it points out one of his videos was helping students pay college tuition, planting 20 million trees, removing over 30 million pounds of trash from the ocean. You know, like he's done a lot of things in his videos, and some of them are silly, like, you know, if whoever can stay in this same circle for, you know,
the longest
amount of time will win $1 million, or keep their hand on an airplane, or, you know.
What was the one he did, like a massive, in like a warehouse, like a massive game of hide and seek for 24 hours. And if they could be, if his team couldn't find them for 24 hours, they would win like $10,000.
Yeah.
He just does stuff like that where it's like, okay, you're going to click on it, but you kind of want to know what happens.
I'm also surprised at how well he sources people to help. Like a lot of times it doesn't feel like those people are undeserving of the winnings. You know, it seems like he's very good at finding people who are probably a little down on their luck or whatever that circumstance may be. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one because I've also seen some people who do this and it feels manipulative. Like they'll ask a homeless person to do something that maybe isn't, you know, the most
like ethical.
Not ethical, but it doesn't feel of high character to you know. It's a little bit more manipulative
or exposes
you know,
somebody maybe at their weakest point, you know, and they're going to get something out of it, but it seems like you're more exposing someone than actually helping that person maybe.
And I think you kind of mentioned it earlier. There's like Jimmy Darts is another person. I discovered him on TikTok, but I think he's a YouTube channel as well. But I love his content. I mean, I guess I'm an emotional person, but I get pretty choked up at a lot of that, where you just see people that are kind-hearted. He asks them to participate in something very silly, and rewards them with these large amounts of cash, and you can tell it just changed their whole day.
And it's mostly crowdfunded, you know. So I think that's where people kind of, to your point earlier, Jess, you feel like, and I think a lot of people do by clicking on a MrBeast video, you feel like, okay, he is probably the most influential YouTuber and one of the most influential people in the world right now. and you feel like by participating, you know that he's getting paid and so on and so forth. Whether he loses $1.5 million on every video, he's still getting platformed and making a lot of money because of his influence on YouTube. And you feel like you're contributing to that in some way. Like it's kind of crowdfunded.
Yeah.
And yeah, with Jimmy Darts, that was just, I mean, that's who he is. He's in, and I think from a Christian perspective, the thing that, draws us in even more probably is the fact that he is a believer and talks about that pretty openly. He'll pray with people, and all that kind of stuff on his videos, which is cool. And you can give towards that. And he gives away the cash and is very transparent about how much money he even makes and how he gives that away. And, when you do give, he sets up GoFundMes for people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He
and
kind of
helps take care of the tax burden, even on some of that kind of stuff, because like the government knows he's giving money to certain people. And there's even all that kind of gets weird.
Another one that we hadn't mentioned yet was a TikToker by the name of Keith Lee. Have you guys caught any of his videos where he does food reviews?
Doing food reviews.
And like his content, I kind of just stumbled across it, and then I kept watching, but it, again, is in this wholesome category where he's going to these kind of hole-in-the-wall mom-and-pop restaurants and then giving them reviews. And because of his platform, those restaurants see incredible growth and profit. And he's always kind of pointing back to God and thanking God for being able to do this. He was like I don't know if he was a boxer or MMA fighter or something like that. And then he just started doing food reviews on TikTok, and he's blown up, but he's just such a kind, soft-spoken guy. And people just really
and
admire
the way he
that.
delivers, like when he films is.
But it's an interesting way of like giving back to his community, because these restaurants that were struggling are now thriving.
And I know there's several and different lines where people maybe they have a skill. Like, so I've seen several barbers, with that same kind of thing. They'll go set up, where there's a lot of homeless people, and they know, man, me cutting this person's hair, giving them dignity will give them a head start, and they capture them telling their story and do all that kind of stuff. And obviously it captivates people, it captivates people that want to hear. I mean, we're such story-driven people. And so when you are watching things like that, and when people have found this niche where they're able to, because I think being philanthropic is not all about just giving money. And, it's about time. We talk about this at the church: time, talent, and treasure. So your treasure might be the money, but what's the time you're investing, or the talent that you're investing? And sometimes that's even more impactful than just giving someone, a car or checks or whatever. So.
Well, and it's difficult to sometimes talk about these types of things without looking, and I mean, I don't want this to become a political conversation, but when you see things like GoFundMe, and a lot of people, when they get injured or have a serious life crisis, they go to that, to public, crowdsource funding for medical issues. Here again is something that's a medical thing, and these conversations that happen around it, it feels like this is amiss in our society somehow. Like, I don't know what it is, but if this is something that's so simply curable and can improve people's lives so much, why do we make it so hard for people to attain that if they're not able to? And I don't know. It's one of those things where it's. I feel like it should be up for debate, and raising awareness is a good thing. But
and I think we're kind of like in the first movement of like, we're in the first generation of seeing like these YouTubers be successful. So even when you're saying that, Eric, I'm thinking, I mean, maybe it is one of the new avenues that are being created to spur on change at higher levels. Yeah. Especially when you get to, I don't know how many, I mean, he has millions and millions of followers. So it's, and billions of views on his videos. So it's like, there has to be like a next level. Like, even as we're thinking, like, as humans, it's like, okay, there is something that's coming next. So what is?
Yeah, you would hope it's encouraging the next person to do something good. Like, oh, I saw this, or maybe I'm in a position of power and I have extra resources that I could maybe help people with this. But it does feel like an indictment on our society, though, that the people who are struggling and need help have to go to these types of places to get that, and then we create entertainment out of their need. And I think that's the heartbreaking side of it, that we live in a society where we don't care for those people who need that support and we have the technology and we have these simple medical procedures that could help them, but yet everything is locked up in this political gridiron situation where it becomes a right or a left issue or all this sort of thing. And then here people are out there struggling and they have to resort to this type of stuff. And I mean, to me, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I would think any Christ follower would want to see that changed, because that is who Jesus was to help people who needed it.
Do you think that people in our culture, because I'm just speaking like American culture, think that this is the next way of doing that, of stepping out and helping people? Like maybe they don't feel comfortable going up to somebody on the street or doing something like that on their own, even if it's not seen. But is this another opportunity for people to help people, or do they feel that way?
I mean, I think, yeah, for sure. A Gen Z sees, this kind of stuff, and they're like, hey, I can help more people maybe by the influence that I have, and invite more people in to invest into solving problems. And I think there's this we can do it together kind of mentality. And I feel like that's, MrBeast is MrBeast, but I feel like he even involves a lot of other people in his videos, and he has kind of like a crew of guys that he hangs out with and are a part of a lot of those, and he's serving a lot of those people. But there becomes that tightrope of entertainment in all of this. Like I think of, shows like Extreme Home Makeover or Extreme Makeover Home Edition, where essentially every time, move that bus, and every time they would go in to, a house that needed it for whatever reason, and heartbreaking stories, people well deserving of people being kind on their behalf. But then the spectacle behind it is like, well, did we need to be entertained in order to do things like that for people that are deserving? Or I think of Undercover Boss is one of those. Like I really get sucked into that show, but I'm also like, well, did you only go do that because it's a PR, thing for you? You're able to resurrect your business in some kind of way. And so that's where it gets difficult, and maybe some of like the moral, questions behind it, happen if someone's exploited, or if you go do something for someone, but you just kind of do it and you leave, and you haven't actually maybe taught financial literacy to somebody, or you just dropped all this money in someone and now they've got this tax burden that they didn't really understand was there. And then a year later they've spent all this money and they've got this huge tax. Things like that have happened for people that didn't know, and you didn't actually help them in the long run. And so I think that entertainment part of it can be dangerous. Plus there is this, I know somebody that I reached out to that's probably the most philanthropic person I know, secretly. Like people wouldn't know that this person is, and they're one of those very quiet, their name's not going to be on a lot of buildings, but and I just know this because they've been gracious to my family around some times when we were in need with our daughter and her surgeries and things like that. And yeah, I was just asking that person's opinion that does see like, yeah, I can do this, and I could put my name on things and have a lot more people know what I did. But I'd rather be secretive, and they're pretty intent on doing it secretively. And so I was just asking for their opinion on it as someone that lives there, because sometimes I think those people get maybe an image of like they would think everybody's stupid that puts their name on something, or selfish or whatever. And one of the things that he brought up was like when a corporation, he brought up a pharmaceutical company, and he's like, there's people that are pharmaceutical companies that will be very generous, put their names on, donate a lot of this money because they have to anyway, or they're going to get taxed. And then they're trying to save face while meanwhile they're, feeding this entire epidemic of people that are addicted to oxycodone and, things like that. And so he's like, to me, that's a sum negative. Even though they're giving to a lot of these things, they're just trying to save face. They would have to give that money away anyway. And
you see it with oil companies. Like BP is one of the biggest oil companies that are out there saying save the ocean. and they put out ads and all of this stuff, but they're also the biggest polluter of the ocean, you know? So you see that all over the place.
And also, I mean, we live in a culture, we live in a society where we don't look away from this kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's like if an oil company, and I didn't know it, like was making YouTube videos helping people, we would be watching it. I mean, I just think it's something where we get drawn and sucked into it because we as people want to see it. And we've talked about that before on the podcast it
might be just we've come to a place where we realize that the entertainment side of it is the best way to communicate a message. Yeah. And
I think it's entertainment, but I think it pulls on deeper parts of who we are as humans. I mean, it pulls on emotional parts. Yeah. And it just like it activates things in us where it's like we want to help people and we want to love people, and those videos give us those feelings. I mean, even looking at like MrBeast and Jimmy Darts, like we'll just use them. We can look at them and see them for who they are, but it's also like I feel very personally drawn into what they're doing. So there's something in how they're shooting their videos where it's like I feel like me as a little teeny individual in Nebraska, I still feel connected to whatever they're doing somewhere else in the world.
And I think the thing is we don't always know people's motives, or it takes like a giant corporation once they figure out for whatever reason that they're doing damage. You know, some of them just ignorantly, and science has evolved and we see that there's damage being done, like Apple, Google, you know, it takes time to start to turn that ship. And then you'll see like climate pledges that happen by companies, and they're like, okay, by 2023, we're going to be carbon, a carbon-free facility and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes because of how giant an organization is, some is like, okay, how much of that is PR? How much of that is you actually care for people? And it's hard to fully represent that in all of it. And you hope, I guess, that people are moving on the best motives in all of this.
Right. Which, and I think with the MrBeast example, he's been pretty open about the fact that he goes out to sponsors to get the money for his videos, and then he uses all of that money giving it away to people. Or if, like the one where he gave the jet away, he gives them the option, well, if you don't want the plane, we'll sell it and I'll give you what profit we get out of that, which is usually like half or whatever. But it's difficult, like you said, Alex, to know people's intentions with this sort of thing and where that leads. And maybe it is an awareness thing, even for more than we realize, because I don't know that I knew that half of the population of people that are blind could have curable blindness. Like I just didn't know that, and now I do. Yeah. And so it's again, it's giving us information that we didn't have.
So for those of us that aren't influencers, like none of us have quite the platform or run an organization. Like, what does this look like for us in just our daily lives? Like, all of us have options. We all have money, time, talent that we can choose to give away and invest into other people or organizations and that kind of stuff. Like, how do we wrestle with how much I present that to society on social media and how much I do that in secret? And, like an example I saw, this last Christmas on, a post was, and that kind of made me cringe a little bit, but maybe it's right. It was like, this person posted, Christmas shopping for a family in need. I'm so blessed to be making Christmas special for the less fortunate. #blessed. We talked about that. #charity. #call me Santa. When it's like, what upsets me about that, what does that person, because of even the influence they have, does that spur others on around them to do the same? We could probably do that. And I make that judgment of that person. So how do you make some of those decisions with even the influence that you have and how you invest, do philanthropic kind of things?
I think social media there's a line to it. But I have definitely used social media at least twice that I can think of. But for me, for like I don't know if you want to say philanthropic, but to me it was more like we're a community of people and I know we want to come together around these things. So like I'm giving you an opportunity to help that's easy. And so one was when all the flooding happened in Nebraska, and it was like, okay, like we can do something about this. This is easy. Like a lot of people on my social media accounts would see me regularly. So I feel like inviting people in to a cause that is not just about me, but I'm like a vessel in helping, and it's not about me. That it feels like, if like for me doing it, it felt like I was honoring God in that way, that I wasn't exploiting someone's vulnerability. And I even think of another situation where there was a single mom that needed stuff for her apartment, and I never like used her name. I don't ever think I like showed her face, but it was just like, this is a need. These are the needs that we have. And so I think that there is community that comes together around things like this, but I think it's how you use it. And I think it's really being mindful of your posture and how you're doing something like this. And then it's like,
even to
right.
people.
And then it's like, whatever you present, you give people like an opportunity to judge you when you're on social media. I mean, it just happens. So, I mean, people could have thought positive or negatively, but I think it's also like, okay, how is this going to be presented, and who's going to get the honor at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Is this about me? Is this about somebody else? And so
It'd be
part
like,
of it is a maturity thing. I think that this, like, even like the example that you read, like Christmas, call me Santa, feels.
I mean, you're even reading into like
right, the tone,
tone.
right, the tone.
Yeah.
So it, like, to me, even reading it, it's like it feels a little immature.
And maybe if it was more of a challenge, like,
right?
Hey, this year I really want to challenge myself to help a family in need. Would you be willing to match that challenge? Like, I'm looking for other friends and family to join me in this challenge and shop for. Like, you could do it in that way, and at least you're kind of leading a cause in a way, instead of just doing this almost virtue signaling type of post. I mean, the example of paying for the person in front, behind you at Starbucks, it would be if you did that, but then you left your business card and said, "Hey, make sure they get this."
Yeah.
Let them know who it was. Or
Yeah.
you waited for them to get through the drive-through and waved and were like, "Motioned, that's me."
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good, to the onlooker.
Or when you feel like you're forced into it because you ordered one drink and the person behind you ordered
You can say
ordered
no.
like $27 worth of drinks, I guess, which is one drink at Starbucks. But
Oh, come on, that's
Come
two- that's
on,
two drinks,
Alex.
but then there's
ways
that
to get around
pressure.
that.
There's that pressure from like the barista that's like, just so you know, you're number 47 in line that's done this. We've been doing this all all
Yeah,
day.
you're gonna pay it forward.
You gonna pay it forward. I mean, we're not gonna judge you, but let me write down
Every
the name
time
of
that's
you on your
happened to
card.
me, I've been the baristas have been like, listen, these people are like $18, so it's okay if you don't. Like, that's happened to me every time.
Yeah.
That's why I don't go to Starbucks. I'm just afraid of it
Alex
happening to be at
Oh my
Starbucks. And so I'm
goodness.
like, I'm not ever going through the drive-through. Nothing.
I don't know if I think that to me is very small, and I it's a cute example. I don't know if I feel like it's the same thing as
Yeah.
Well, and it's not, and that's why I was saying it would be if you gave the business card, or if you tried to draw attention to yourself, it would be
went live.
Yeah. Live on Facebook. I'm paying for the person in front of or behind me. So what does Jesus say about this? I think a clear passage to point to is Matthew 6:1-4, and where it talks about giving to the needy, but not letting your left hand know what your right hand's doing, and to give in secret. I mean, that's kind of a pretty clear statement, guidance. I don't know how. Is there any other way that can be interpreted?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty clear from Jesus on first pass, like when you give to the needy, don't let your right hand, like you said. And then he says, so that you're giving in secret, and then your Father who sees what you've done in secret will reward you, And so there's almost this like always, and people have layered this always, all giving needs to be done in secret onto this passage. But I think contextually, like this is part of the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus is talking here, and Jesus is aiming at people's hearts in the Sermon on the Mount. Like he gives a lot of things that he's telling people to do or to not do that are really trying to point towards heart language. Like if your heart is not in the right place, then you're just doing religion, and that's what these people are doing. And so there's so many examples, I think, in the Sermon on the Mount when he teaches them to pray, when he does all these things, that Jesus is more concerned about the heart here than like giving a specific thing, that you have to do, because these people contextually were doing that. Like they were, they were doing like that post, making sure everybody knew, like, hey, everyone looking at how much I'm putting in the offering plate. It was very much, that kind of context that Jesus was trying to speaking into, that were making that about themselves and getting their own glory. And so he's speaking really to the heart, I think, at this level.
And I think like even thinking about how to apply this today, then your Father who sees what's done in secret will reward you. That just speaks to my heart of God sees me even when no one else sees me. And so I don't have to post everything on Facebook, or I don't have to be a huge YouTuber for God to see me and for that to be just as impactful and just as God honoring as from one. Like one is not better than, like being seen is not better than not being seen. And so I think that it's just like God sees you. He sees your heart. He sees where you're at. And it doesn't have to be plastered everywhere for you to be just as special or make just as much of an impact.
And there's plenty of places in Scripture where it is like literally highlighted what people gave, And you've got Zacchaeus, who it says that he gave, he felt bad for all that he had stole from people, so he paid them back more. You've got Mary, who spent all of her money, to bless Jesus and to minister to him.
I think the
a lot of places
boy
in
that
Scripture.
gave the fish and the bread, like he gave and it was multiplied.
Yeah, Barnabas, the Macedonian church is giving to Paul. So there's a lot of places in Scripture, if somebody's like saying all needs to be done in secret, that it was highlighting a group of people and the heart behind it, which was able to open up ministry opportunities and the gospel to go forward in ways that wouldn't have happened without these people. And so I think to a person that would go that far and say, well, Jesus, it's pretty clear here. It's in red. Jesus said it. We've got to, again, always look at the entirety of Scripture and what's happening in that surrounding of the Sermon on the Mount, but also in the declaration of Scripture and other places as well. So,
yeah, it's good. All right. Well, any closing thoughts on this? I mean, I feel like that's a really good place to land it. And I guess, maybe go watch that MrBeast video if you want. I don't know. Check it out and see what you
like, subscribe.
Yeah.
I think there are like certain episodes we have that are great, like coffee with friend conversations. And I think this is one too, where it's like, this is very relevant in our culture right now. So it's like, take this and maybe take where we started with this and continue the conversation.
Well, even if maybe it's a challenge to look at your life and say, where am I giving where could I be giving that I'm not, or what could I be doing with my resources?
Or maybe if you're doing it in secret, maybe that's a challenge to say, man, if somebody else heard this, it maybe not broadcast to the whole world, but if somebody else heard that, they'd be motivated,
or inspired. Yeah.
Inspired that it doesn't always have to be public, but your giving or whatever that is, time, talent, treasure, can really impact somebody's life. And so it's an encouragement there. And so it's good to wrestle through, hey, what are the places that it's good to give in secret? Maybe it's good to, that it's going to spur on somebody else's faith. And so I don't think there's a one size fits all. Every solution needs to sometimes always in secret or always in public. But I think it's a discipleship principle to wrestle through for sure.
Yeah.
I wish Austin would be able to chime in. We need to get him a mic. We just hadn't mentioned him yet today.
Oh, yeah. The little bonus mention
justice.
of him at the end of the episode for
I don't want
people who
to call us out.
got through the whole thing today. Thank you if you are one of those who listened to the whole episode and you're here at the end with us. We always appreciate that. Appreciate your endurance and your faithfulness. But if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to us by sending us an email to podcast@cccomaha.org. You can reach out to us on social media on TikTok or Instagram at CCCOMA Podcast. But as always, we'd love to hear from you. And until next time, we'll talk to you then.